Okay, welcome back to another watch video. Last video we did do an Eterna, and today we're going to do a little Eterna again. So this one was a gift to my wife, or I bought it and she liked it, so it's now hers. And it's a 1940s Eterna, manual wind. Crown keeps coming out, probably just need to tighten it, but I reckon it's time to give it a service. So let's open it up. This is a snap-on case back. So what we do is we find a little groove where it snaps on. Insert our case opening knife. You can see somebody's already been at it here. There we go. Very nice dial on this, a little bit of patina, but overall very good condition for being this style case. And yeah, this time period. Might as well remove some of the hands. There we go. Here's the movement. Very nicely decorated and beautiful movement in these. So this is like the miniature version of the calibre 520. I cannot see what calibre it is later, but I will let you know once I come to the calibre number. It will be underneath the balance. Get the dial off. Absolutely gorgeous dial on this. A couple of spots here and there, but overall, you know, it's probably going on soon 80 years old, so I'm not going to complain about that. And just look at the decoration on the dial side here. Very nice. So, in an attempt to keep this video a little bit shorter, I'm going to do it all in fast film, taking it apart. And when putting it back together, I'm going to do it at normal speed. Just a quick look in the case. You can see all the service marks. This had a few, and to be honest, they've all there's a lot of history here. You can definitely see somebody's been scribbling stuff on the dial side here and here. I quite approve of that, but the screw heads are all very nice. Same goes for the bridge surfaces, so whoever's been servicing, they've been doing a decent job. Another thing I'm happy to see is that the upper barrel arbor bushing here is not worn. They're quite thin on these, so they have a tendency to wear, so don't have to look at that. And yeah, you have the early shock protection from Eterna, which is basically a spring that lifts here, and this as well as on the spring here. Not as efficient as the later versions, but you know, better than nothing. Okay, a bit of movement magic later, and we're ready to put the movement back together. I'm going to epilound treat the escape wheel and pallet. Yeah, I'll do the capsules as well as I have them out, and then we're going to fit the mainspring into the barrel, and then we're going to put it all together. Okay, so a bit more movie magic. I have already put the mainspring in the barrel, so I'm going to oil the sides of the barrel arbor that engage with the barrel lid. Set that together, like so. Okay, now for fitting the shock jewels. I'm going to take the balance cock off the movement again. Just place the balance underneath the balance cock here, just to keep it in a fairly safe place while it's being cleaned. It's got a nice breakaway overcoil, as you can see. Got a nice balance screws, weight screws, beautifully made. So let's look. I'm also going to fit the lower shock jewel. It should be a little bit less fiddly. So it's a bit of a bigger screw. This being a ladies movement, it's a bit bigger than a lot of ladies movement I've worked with, but it's still half the size of a men's movement. So always a little bit more fiddly to work with. So lower shock jewel went in very well. I'm now going to oil the lower and upper part, and then we're going to fit the balance into the balance cock. So I'll put a drop of oil in there for the lower. I'll literally just drop a drop of oil in there for the lower shock jewel. And now we'll do the same for the upper shock jewel, which is in the bridge. So, next thing we're going to do is fit the balance into the balance cock. Trying not to drop things. Okay. Now this is always fairly fiddly on a ladies movement, I have to admit. So we need to get the breakaway over coil into the regulator pins while getting the boot into the stud into the stud holder. Just through the microscope, you can see the breakaway over coil goes into those two pins at 12 o'clock, and at 3 o'clock you have the stud and the stud holder and screwed in place. Okay, next step is to see if our balance moves freely, and that's always a good thing in case your hairspring is a bit deformed or anything. You can see how it's lining up. So this caliber is called a 675. Very highly decorated, beautifully made movement, and reminds me a lot of the 520, and again reminds me of the IWC caliber 83. Very similar layout. Here we go. I'm going to put the screw in there to make sure we have the right height. It's pressing down correctly. If it looks a bit clumsy here, it's a little bit difficult to get this spot on underneath the camera. Okay. I would say that movement at the hairspring is not moving as nicely as I want to. I cannot see from here, so I'll have a look under the microscope and let you know what's going on. Okay, good news. We've sorted the problem. And what it was that the coil of the breakaway hairspring was a little bit off. So the tie hairspring was leaning onto one of the balance spokes, and of course, if the hairspring is leaning up against something, you won't have it free to move or bounce in and out, and it will stop. Now it's where it should be and moving freely. So yeah, I'll continue by taking the balance off again, and I can put the movement back together. Start by putting a drop of oil into the barrel bushing and the center wheel bushing, like so. Drop the barrel into place. And we're also going to put in the setting lever screw, so we don't forget that later on. Now we're going to, the crown wheel is attached to the underside of its own little bridge. So we've got a core here. Made out of steel, designed to stop the stop wear, also make it more resistant rather than it going on the brass. So the top side is actually very nicely decorated on this, with starburst finish and highly polished teeth. I'm afraid my lid here is a bit ugly from numerous operations with glue and paint on other projects. And it also contains my oil. So a little bit of the red grease, red oil onto here. Oh, it goes the other way around. Come back, please. so. Okay. And a highly polished screw goes on the top of that to hold it in place. Helps if I put that in the right place, of course. Like so. Here we go. Very nice finish on the screw heads, highly polished. So I'll have to do a movement review on this. It's a very nice movement. And they really made an effort. It's so small and fine. It's very impressive. See, so underneath here is hidden, but there's a starburst finish on that. And you have the beveled edges, nicely made on the corner of the bridges. Light today is not very good because it's dark outside, so I only have the workshop lighting, but you can see, and you have the pelage all over the base underneath the train bridge. I just do that? Yeah, I just did that. Well, I can't get the center wheel in. This has to come out again. I think I've done this movement once before, so it's not exactly something I work on every day. I wouldn't mind working on more of them, they're very nice. Okay, let's try again by putting this center wheel in before the ratchet wheel. Okay, I've double checked some things here. Now it's looking more like the way I want. I'm going to put a drop of red oil here and here. I'll put the gear train bridge in place. Okay, because this is a ladies movement and everything's very small, I'm going to look at this under the microscope. There we go. I know the pivots are in the jewels, and I can screw in the screws. Now we can put in the crown wheel here. So again today, apologize for the lighting, it's not the best today, so it affects the quality of the video. Okay, let's put in the barrel bridge. Like so. There we go. This escape wheel cock actually has very nicely decorated capsule. It's only on the one side, so I guess it supports the movement in dial up position, but I don't really see the point of this having on the one side. But fair enough, that's the way they made it. And now we're talking about a very small screw again. All being relative, of course, as sometimes you deal with much smaller screws than this. There we go, that went in well. Like capsule, I'm going to put in a drop of oil from the top. That means we can put this in place, like so. Alright, I'm going to do this under the microscope because it's very lightly. I'm going to break the pivot if I'm not seeing what I'm doing. Here we go. Now that's in place. Let's turn the movement around. And start putting the winding and setting mechanism back in place. So bit of blue grease as always on all the sliding parts. So, I'm now going to screw the setting lever in. Now this stem had fallen out, and I think it's because it wasn't fully screwed in. There we go, setting lever in place, a little bit of movie magic there. I've also oiled the gear train, so that's ready. again, time to put in the yoke. Very long yoke in this one. Slightly different layout than the usual one. It comes in all the way over here and goes over like this. That sliding surface. Put that yoke spring in place. There we go. Now we can put some red oil here onto the where the cannon pinion goes. Minute wheel, 2 intermediate wheels. Very high finish on everything here. This is a high point movement, I would say. It's very well decorated. This is not your average economy watch back in the day, that's for sure. Even the setting of the spring is finely decorated. See what it does. Setting, unwinding. Perfect. So the next thing to do is we can fit might as well fit the overlaying second driving wheel, sweep second driving wheel. Comes on here. This is a push fit, so we'll give it a light push into position, like so. And we've got the pinion that's going to come in. I'm just going to do that. Just a drop of oil on the touching surface on this side, and we're going to put this in like so. Very nice feature on this one is it has an overlying bridge. I like that. Means that sweep second pinion is nice and secure, especially when you put the second hand on. Some watches don't have that, they just have a spring lying on top. Rolex and Omega. Sumo that pushes it in from the side. I prefer overlying bridge like this. Okay, that's moving smoothly. One thing I need to look out for is that the overlying wheel doesn't touch the tension spring on the sweep second pinion. Sweep second pinion is there to reduce stuttering, if there is any. Well, there would be if it didn't have it. Yeah, let's have a look at that. It's cool. Now we can put the we'll put the pallet in place. And the pallet bridge, the pallet cock in this case. It's only one screw. And the difference is a pallet cock is one screw, or the definition, a cock is one screw and a bridge is 2 screws. So I'm going to do this under the microscope, as I don't want to break any pivots. There we go, that's in place. All we're missing is the screw, which is here. There we go, now we can wind the movement and we will oil the pallet fork. Here we go, pallet fork oiled. Interesting time, let's see if she will run. So yeah, what we want here is there's an impulse pin on the balance wheel. Also there's a roller with an impulse pin and we want that to hit in the little fork. You can see it, we want it to hit in here so that it can swing back and forth. So all you watching probably know, but what we do have is we have a spring in here that goes through this gear ratio, goes through this gearbox basically, that will show your minutes, your hours, and your seconds. And the release of this mainspring is timed by how fast this fork moves back and forth, releasing the power to wind down. That is regulated by this spring here and how well it will oscillate in one direction to the other and back again. That's the easy explanation. Oh, that's a good sign. Go. There we go. Very good. Well, not so good that it's stopping, but let's screw it down and see what it does. Sometimes it just needs, it might be pressing a little bit down in one direction. Preferably not put the screw into the hairspring. Okay, it's ticking, but ticking, not really. It is ticking, but it's ticking terribly, so I need to have a look under the microscope and see what's going on. So after an hour of mucking around with the hairspring balance, taking the hairspring off the balance, wondering what the heck's going on, because I had that problem earlier, I realized there's a tiny little fiber underneath the escape wheel cock that is touching the balance wheel and causing all the issues I've been having. So good news is I've found it and I can now correct the issue. Bad news, I've wasted an hour trying to find it. I guess lesson learned. Okay, after 3 hours of mucking around with the hairspring, I finally got somewhere. I've really been struggling with it because it's a blued steel, which is fairly soft, typical 1940s stuff, and it's a lady's watch, so the balance and hairspring, everything is just smaller. So what I was struggling with was getting the breakaway overcoil to not hit the center wheel, but yet be high enough to go into the regulator pins. Trust me, that was a lot of fun. So this is dial down position. It's running fairly good. If I turn it upside down, just let that settle. It's got a bit bigger beat error, but at this point I'm going to live with it just the way it is. The least variation from dial down, dial up is fairly good. I don't expect much more really. No, I'm happy with that. Turn it around again, dial down. That's pretty good. If I put crown down, it does have some deviation. Yeah, I could take the hairspring off, I could poise this, I could get that better. It's going, let's let the amplitude fall a bit and we'll see where it settles. Plus 45, you know what, plus 45, crown down, 70 or 80-year-old ladies movement. We're going to leave it where it is. I'm happy with that. Plus 30 seconds, it's absolutely acceptable. This watch is going to keep within a minute a day, being worn, and for an 80-plus-year-old watch, that's absolutely fine by me. And it's also going to keep very good time when you put it on the bench or overnight. So yeah, I'm not going to muck around more with this. I'm happy with that. Okay, a little look at the movement before we put it in. It's all clean now. This one has a little bit of staining on the plating, but that's fine. Overall good condition. Two details. Well, one detail I particularly like is the jeweled sweep second pinion is jeweled on the top here. That's very nice because sometimes they're not and they will wear. I really like the finishing on the ratchet wheel, even though it's mostly hidden, just very high quality. Same goes with the crown wheel. Overall, just a beautifully made movement. The hairspring is very fine. There's nothing I can do about it. That's how they were made back then. It's performing fairly well for being a ladies' movement from this time period. I've now added the hour wheel, ready to put the dial on. Again, just nicely decorated, very nicely finished, superb ladies' movement, and dare I say, much nicer than a lot of the competition at the time. Again, shows that Eterna was on the top of their game in this time period, and they really made some fantastic watches. So now I'm going to put the dial on. Let's get the hands on. There's such a nice original dial on this watch. You'll find back in the day when I picked this up a few years ago. I haven't gotten around to servicing it before now. Always like to have a little bit of clearance from the dial with the hour hand if possible, because if somebody decides not to service a watch in a while and starts wearing the center wheel, you risk the hour hand actually touching the dial at some point, which is a bit of a tragedy. So I do my best to prevent that to happen in the future if somebody's a bit careless and wears their watch way overdue a service. The whole idea with servicing a watch is to make sure that it doesn't wear. So it will wear when dirt comes in there and it's dry and whatnot. So try and avoid that. There we go. Look at that. Such a fantastic looking dial. Okay. That's the sound of my compressor. No, I'm not going to put any service marks in here. It's not my style. We do that digitally on the worksheet. I will case the movement now. Like so. Pretty tight fit, as you can see. Rattle around in there. Try not to be clumsy with that. Here we go. There we go. What a lovely watch. From the serial numbers on it, it looks very much like around 1940 to 45. I'm not quite sure, but it's absolutely gorgeous. Very nice design, very petite and beautiful. No wonder my wife likes this one. If I was a lady, I'd wear it myself. It's a bit too small for me, as I'm a man. It won't really suit me. What do you think? Anyway, if you want to leave a comment or something, feel free. I think it's quite stupid to ask people to leave comments. Don't leave a comment if you don't feel like it. That's fine too. Yeah, hope you enjoy the video, and let's find something fun for next time. Oh, P.S. If you're wondering why, actually I didn't realise that the dial is upside down. This you can choose if you want the dial in, if you want the crown at the 3 o'clock position or the 9 o'clock position, because the dial goes on both ways. My wife wears her watch on her right hand usually, so I'm going to keep the dial just like this because that will be what will look correct for her. So yeah, there you go. Interesting little detail. Usually the dial feet are positioned so it will only go in one way, but here it goes in both ways. So quite cool.